Hi guys, how are you doing today? It feels so good to be on your screen again. And today we are going to be talking about why healing is uncomfortable. Healing is not pretty and it is not comfortable. If anyone ever told you that healing will be peaceful at the beginning, they lied. Healing is hard. Healing is not comfortable because healing doesn't begin with letting go. It doesn't even begin with relief. Healing begins with awareness. Awareness in the sense that you have to acknowledge that you are hurting. You have to acknowledge that somebody hurt you at some point in time. Maybe you lost someone, maybe you are grieving. You have to acknowledge your pain in order for you to be aware that you're actually hurting. And if you do not acknowledge that pain, you're not going to heal. Healing forces you to sit down with things you think is buried somewhere, things you do not want to talk about, things you're avoiding, things you feel like, okay, I am strong, I don't think I am hurting. Healing will make you sit down to reflect and think about it. And once you reflect about what is keeping you from moving on, then that is the first step to healing. Healing forces you to self reflect and think about things that are in the past that you just move past, you know, things that you have not come to terms with, things that you feel like is normal, but they are not normal. And that alone is uncomfortable because you have to reflect and think about what happened, how best it is for you to move on from what actually breaks you. Healing is uncomfortable because you can't keep blaming other people for your own actions. Healing is uncomfortable because you have to come to terms with the reality that you are hurting. You cannot numb yourself and call it healing. That is you coping. You cannot distract yourself and you think that you have healed. You can't pretend that you're happy when you're not. You can't pretend that you're fine when you're not fine. And that is totally uncomfortable. You have to face the reality because once you pretend to yourself, then you are dodging healing. Healing requires honesty, and honesty starts by being honest with your own self. At some point, healing makes you grieve, and now you're not grieving people, you're not grieving things that have happened in the past. You're just grieving the versions of yourself that was vulnerable, the version of yourself that was in pain, the version of yourself that feels like you cannot move on. And healing is you letting go of what you've tolerated, letting go of the version of you that received less, and letting go of the pain and hurt in your heart that you feel, I cannot let this go. This is too much for me. Healing starts when you start to acknowledge that and you take the step to move forward. And healing is so uncomfortable because it changes your standard. This is not the you of before who will grieve or who will cry or who would distract themselves with work. This is the you who is making honest conversation with yourself that I really want to move forward so that I could do better things with my time and not just be stuck. So when people say with time you will heal, I'm of the opinion that time do not heal people. Because if people do not take the steps to want to be healed, they will still be stuck and they will not heal. And when I hear things like it happened for a while, why are you still holding on to that? That's because that person had not taken the steps to want to heal. Why people think healing is uncomfortable is because healing gives you your power back. You are no longer stuck, you're no longer grieving, you have moved ahead, you have left the past in the past, and you are forging ahead to better things. And now there's no more chaos to hide behind, there's no more pretending, there's no more pain in your heart. You're just opened to healing. You become responsible for your boundaries, you become responsible for your peace, you become responsible for the kind of person you're moving with. And I'll tell you for a fact that responsibility is intimidating. Now, if you're trying to heal, you have to be responsible for everything, for all the choices you've made, and for things that are going to happen moving forward. For the fact that somebody hurt you in the past does not mean that another person will not hurt you in the present, or another person will not hurt you in the future. But your ability to take responsibility for your actions and know when to heal is very, very important and paramount to your growth. And one thing healing does to you is it stretches you, it rewires you, it shapes you for tomorrow. And once you've decided to heal, you wake up one day and you feel lighter because the burdens are off, because you have nothing to worry about, and because you just believe that you want the best version of yourself. And once you've now decided to now heal, you choose to respond, not just to react. You respond because you really want to let go of the hurt. Once you've decided to heal, the second thing you notice is that you're no longer in pain. And you discover that you choose peace instead of guilt. And you discover that nothing gets to you. Not that nothing gets to you really, but you don't have to hold on to pain. You just let it go. You feel numb, but then you let it go so that you could create space for a better tomorrow. So what I will leave you with is healing is uncomfortable, but do not quit. Keep taking the steps to be a better person. Keep taking the steps to heal. Reflect. Reflection is one of the things I think we as humans are losing touch with. When there's an issue, when you're going through something, take your time to deeply reflect. Think about what brought you to that point, and then you see where your mistakes are. You see where you have to improve. You see who or why you should forgive, and then move on. And this is just for your own sanity, for your own mental health, so that you don't carry the burden of another person. Also, I want you to know that once you choose to heal, you're not breaking, you're becoming. Till I see you next time. Bye.